Today we're gonna get way out of our comfort zone. We're gonna build something new and we're gonna learn something new. Hey, what's up? I'm Aaron and welcome to the Shred Spot. There's this book I read called The War of Art by Steven Pressfield, and in it he has this concept of the resistance. The resistance is any kind of excuse or thing that you put in your own way to not accomplish a task. And for me lately, the resistance has been this giant pile of wood here. I've been looking at it, trying to come up with a clever feature that we could build for the Shred Spot, and I'm just kind of struggling a little bit. So what I want to do is mix things up in a way that'll make it really fun. And looking at all the stuff that's here, I think what I need to do is actually take the scraps and put a box together out of that. We all know lumber is crazy expensive right now, so we can't let them go to waste. Maybe we can even call it Scrappy. That'd be a cool name for that box, actually. So I'm gonna dig through here, see what comes out, and we'll build something from that. So we've definitely made some interesting cuts when it comes to the plywood, but I think I actually need to start with the outside first when it comes to building this. Some of these are real thin pieces here, and I think I need to use these to work with, and then I can build the bones around this. I'm gonna dig through here and just see what's available. I see right here there's like a pretty decent sized square, so that could be a top or a side or something like that. There's a couple of pieces that are more angled. I think that's probably not gonna work unless we get really weird with it. And then there's some pieces that are a definite no-go down here as well. But I think there may be enough. We may have to make a couple little cuts, but let's see what we can do. We're actually pretty successful so far. I found some really big chunks of plywood that should work really well as the tops and size of whatever this box ends up being. They're long enough that I can actually cut them and trim them to exactly what I think I'm gonna need. Shouldn't require too much cutting, which is also a bonus. And then I found actually a bunch of little plywood chunks here too that I can work with. Some of them I thought were kind of goners for sure. I'd used them for certain things, or they were part of the original triangle design and we ended up not using them, but there's enough here to work with for sure. So I think I can just kind of piece this all out, figure out what needs to be sliced up and make something usable. Scrappy is gonna be about a foot and a half tall box. It's going to be just perfect for connecting a lot of pieces that are in here and working on a lot of tricks that maybe I'm a little bit scared to try on large march. There's a few drop-off things that I want to test before I start doing it on bigger things. This is going to be that perfect half step. On top of that, this is the first feature that I've built 100% on my own. Everything else I've had the guiding hand of Evan to help me out with. So I'm just taking Grimace and the basic design there and I'm going to apply it here to Scrappy. So the next thing I need to do is actually make the foundation, make the bones for Scrappy, and then I can put them in place. We'll have to do a little bit of trimming here to get everything just right, but I think this is gonna be a relatively quick build. I know I joke around a lot about overbuilding everything we have in here, and that is totally true. I just think with this one, I might be able to get away with a little bit less given the size of it and all the scraps we're using. We may be able to get away without the bottom portion that we usually build for each one of these boxes. Let's see. It's a small enough box too that I want to move it around a bunch, so if it's not as heavy as the other ones, that's totally okay. So I lucked out big time on this one. I was doing the math here to try to figure out how long the legs needed to be and then how I was going to close this gap here and all that stuff. And then I just, on a whim, took one of the 2x6s and put it down right on top of the other 2x6, and they match totally flush and perfect. So not only are we using scraps, but I don't even have to cut the scraps. They just fit nicely in there. We don't have to make a bottom section or anything. This is just like meant to be. Scrappy is coming to life. Okay, so the real moment of truth is upon us. You can see the inside. I've been real scrappy with this one where instead of making another whole layer here, I've just used little blocks for each one of the corners, which makes it a little bit lighter, but also makes use of these blocks. I don't know what I would have done with some of these, to be totally honest with you. So it seems like it's gonna work. You know, the funny bit about this is some of the outside plywood is 3/4 of an inch and some of it is just a 1/2 inch. So there's different wall thicknesses here, but I don't think it's gonna make too much of a difference. And in the end, it's Scrappy for a reason, right? So let's flip this over and I guess find out how we did. Better than I would have expected. Now it basically looks like an overbuilt pallet, but that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted something that's kind of like a safe height to try a bunch of new stuff that I've been wanting to do on the Street Trials bike. And this is exactly what that's gonna do for me. It's also a really perfect height to jump to everything else. And as we build bigger boxes, this will be a great even platform to take off for when I'm doing really big jumps or even jumping down and staying on back wheel. So there's a lot that I can unlock with this tiny 1 foot tall box. Primer gremlins are kind of busy today, so I'm gonna prime this thing myself. I really wanna ride this tomorrow morning on Twitch, so I'm just gonna get this done now while I can. Scrappy came out pretty nice. I had a good session this morning on Twitch with this thing, and it's just the right size. It connects so many of the features that are already in here, and it's the right height to test out a lot of new stuff that I want to try. Large Marge is great and all, but I don't really want to fall off that on a regular basis. This, however, is pretty much 2 pallets stacked up in height. It's a large curb, and most of the stuff that I talk about and teach on here is just stuff you could learn on a curb anyway. So there's a lot of different things I can teach here and try here, and even for myself pick up some new skills based on just this height of a box. So today the trick I want to learn is how to jump off of stuff backwards. So you see a lot of street trials guys doing this where they line up parallel to the ledge and they jump on their back wheel and then they jump off the ledge, sometimes throw in a 180, but they kind of do this big gap away from it. So I've been wanting to try to learn this thing, but I just could never find the right feature to learn it on. Large Marge definitely would work, but I'm just afraid of falling off Large Marge backwards like that. Scrappy is just the right size, just the right height. I know that when I'm on the back wheel and about to jump off, the rear wheel is actually below the edge, so I need it to be tall enough that my back wheel isn't going to hit the ground as well. There are just a few little things that need to be just right, and I think Scrappy's going to give us the right setup. The cool thing about this trick is it's actually a combination of a couple different tricks that we already know. I covered this a little bit in the Beyond Bunny Hops video, but we're going to work on something called the Abubaca. And the Abubaca is something where you jump up onto a ledge and you put your back wheel on kind of the face of it, and then you lower your front wheel, then you pick up your front wheel and jump backwards. When you see people on top of an obstacle and then they're jumping backwards off of it, they're basically just setting themselves up in the position for an Abubaca, or if they're throwing a 180 for it, that's called a Fufanu. So Abubaca and Fufanu, maybe the 2 most fun things to do on a bicycle, and also the 2 most fun things to say when you're talking about bicycles. But we're gonna start with the Abubaca first. I wanna show you just what goes into it. I think to learn this trick the right way, you have to really understand what the wheel placement feels like on the edge of the box before you get set up in the actual position to do the move itself. So first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna learn the Abubaca. You're gonna roll up slowly to the box. You're gonna bunny hop, land your back wheel on the corner of the box, drop your front wheel just ever so slightly, and then pull your front wheel back toward your chest and use the momentum from that pull to jump the entire bike backwards. Now you're gonna bend your knees, and that's what's gonna level the bike out as you're jumping backwards. When you land, then you ride fakie and roll away. A Fufanu is relatively the same motion of jumping up to back wheel, but then as you come back around, you look over your shoulder and pull the bike, and you rotate as you're jumping backwards. Now, the thing about it is, I don't know how else to say this, but you normally have more time to fall than just this height. So the more time you have to fall off the back of the box, the more time you have to get that rotation around. So it might be quite hard to do a Fufanu on something that's 12 inches tall. That's why I'm just gonna start with the Abubaca, and then I'll work into the Fufanu as I find bigger obstacles to try it on. But for all intents and purposes, what I really wanna do is to get really comfortable putting my back wheel on the edge and knowing exactly what that feels like. And once I drill that in, I'm gonna move on to the setup. Now that we're comfortable with our wheel placement in the Abubaca and we know exactly where our back wheel should be on the corner of the box, we're actually gonna ride up onto the box and ride parallel with the takeoff. So as I'm getting into position, a few notes on the rotation that you wanna do. I'm right foot forward, and so for right foot forward, I'm gonna have my front foot on the side of the drop, and I'm gonna rotate counterclockwise. And the reason for that is that my back foot is gonna push the back wheel around, and so maybe this isn't as important in the Abubaca version, but when you get to the Fufanu and you're really trying to spin a rotation, you wanna have the power from that back foot to continue spinning you around. So for me, what I'm going to do, I'm gonna give myself a little bit of a pedal ratchet so I can pedal kick slightly just to lift the bike up and move it into place. That's just a better way of doing this, so you're not muscling the bike around as much and you can be a bit more precise with it. So I'll ratchet the pedals, I'll kick to put my bike in place, and I'm gonna set that rear tire exactly where it was when I was doing the Abubaca. Wheel placement is by far the most important part of this. I'm gonna set my rear wheel in place, I'm gonna lower my front wheel, and then I'm gonna pull back on my handlebars and bend my knees to level the bike out as we jump backwards. Then I'm gonna ride away fakie and half cab out of it. So I'll give it a shot here, but usually you would have more height to do this. The same everything applies when you're doing this for the Fufanu version. And the only thing you really need to do a bit more is yank the front wheel around. So I'm looking over my shoulder instead of pulling straight back. I have to look over my shoulder as I pull back out. And it's even more important to lift the back wheel up by bending your knees so that you give your bike enough time to make the rotation before you land on the ground. This one definitely takes a bit of practice to get done, and I'm glad that I have something as small as Scrappy to really practice it and get it dialed in on. I've seen some people do this trick absolutely massive, and I think a lot of it has to do with just the confidence in your wheel placement and getting reps on something like this. This is easily something you could practice on a curb. I would for sure start with the Abubaca version, and then as you get more confident and you're able to go higher, then start adding in the rotation. I also want to take this opportunity to officially welcome Scrappy to the shred spot. If you've seen some of the other features made, it's pretty special that this actually came from scraps of all the other features. So the top is actually the leftover from Grimace, which you should definitely check out that video. I did that one sort of on my own. And then Large Marge was the first thing that we built here. So it's kind of a combination of those two. Definitely check out the Large Marge video. My friend Evan helped me build it and we had a lot of fun. It was the first feature that we made for this spot. Go ahead and give it a look, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. We're putting out new videos every week, and I'm live on Twitch every Tuesday and Thursday as well. We'll see you there. Uh-oh, that's not good. Thankfully I landed a couple of these because looks like the pedal is starting to strip out of the crank right now, and that's not ideal for dropping off of stuff. So much as I'd like to keep dropping off and keep logging some more clips, I think we're just gonna have to call it at that and get a new crank set on order. Yeah, we don't want that to happen. I don't want to shear that thing off while I'm jumping off. That would not be ideal. Well, that's part of it, I guess.